I just can't read 14 books in a month, guys. I am not that type of reader. I read 15 books this month. Hi everyone, my name is Serena. Welcome back to my channel. In this video, I'm going to wrap up everything that I read and watched in January. As I said, I read 15 books. It's insane. I never read this much. It might not seem much to you, but it is to me. It's like double what I usually read. I did watch less movies and shows, so I guess I read more than watched in January. But I did read 2 novellas, I think, 2. And I did read a lot of audiobooks because, especially in the past week, that's why I haven't uploaded last week, I have been organizing the house, like old papers and stuff, so I've been listening while doing that, and I do tend to read more and faster when I am listening to audiobooks. So I did read 15 things, and I watched 2 movies on the airplane when I came here from Italy, and I watched 1 TV show season with a booktube friend. So I'm going to talk about all of these. First of all, I want to do some bookish stats. I read 15 books, 3 1-star, 4 2-stars, 1 3-stars, 4 4-stars, and 3 5-stars. Not only I read the most, I also had some strange ratings because I always usually give 3 stars, but I had 1 3-stars. I read 3,680 total pages. I read 7 young adults, 1 middle grade. 3 of them weren't announced. They were the 3 classics that I read. I don't know if they were young adult. Probably 2 were adult and 1 was young adult. Anyway, and 4 adult. As for genre, I read 3 novellas. Technically 1 is 2. Unite Me by Tara Mafi is 2 in 1, but I'm gonna count it as 1. 1 is SFF, so science fiction fantasy, and 2 are contemporary. Then I read 4 science fiction / fantasy. I think 1 is completely fantasy, but yeah. I read 4 contemporary, I read 1 nonfiction, and 3 classics. I'm gonna call them classics, even though classics isn't a genre. So let's begin with the first book that I started this year, which was a 1-star, so perfect start to the year. By the way, January has been a long month in my mind because I don't know if it's because I read a lot more, but the first books that I'm about to talk about feel like I've read them 2 months ago and not 1. Anyway, I have read Flawless. If I'm not showing you the physical book, it's because I left them in Italy. It is the second book in the Pretty Little Liars series. I am not gonna continue on with this series. I already knew that I wasn't going to, but I did own the first 2 books and I wanted to read them and get them, you know, read and done and unhaul them when I can. But I do want to read that one before leaving because I didn't want to bring it here. I gave it 1 star, and the first one I gave 2 stars, I think, because it was more bearable. As I said in my wrap-up when I talked about the first book is actually the first episode of the show. The second book, I'm not sure, but still, same vibes. They are all horrible. The 4 girls, they're like the same person with 1 characteristic that distinguish them. Like Spencer is obsessed with studying, Hannah is obsessed with body image, and Arya, I don't know, is obsessed with her teacher. and then there's Emily, who is gay. So they are all the same horrible teenager. There's this thing, you know, that teenagers are horrible. Sarah Shepard really portrays them as horrible in this series. But yeah, there are questionable things in this book, in my opinion. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if the bulimia is well represented. I couldn't give an opinion on that, so if you know, let me know. But yeah, and all these questionable things like cheating, Hannah making these weird jokes. Hannah says Arya and Sean made sense like a fat girl wearing leggings. Is that supposed to be funny? Also, there's this discussion about fat girls not being cute and not invited to parties, but fat boys are funny, so they are invited to the party, obviously. Also, there's kind of an assault scene with Emily. Yeah, a lot of questionable things, and I give this one star. Nothing else to say about it. The next 3 books, I'm going to talk about it all in one because they feel all mashed up in my mind. So we have Unravel Me, Unite Me, and Ignite Me, which are the other 3 books that I had from the Shatter Me series. I am not going to continue on with this again. I think that it was supposed to be a trilogy, so it kind of wrapped up well. And I'm not going to continue on with the other 3 books. But yeah, I gave Unravel Me 1 star, Unite Me 1 star, and Ignite Me 2 stars because there were a little bit more action scenes, but not for me. Again, I'm not the audience for this trilogy. As I said, I read it because they were fast-paced. I wanted to get them read before coming here, and I did own them. So yeah, my thoughts are all mashed up. So I'm just going to talk about all 3 of them at the same time. There will be slightly some spoilers, so skip ahead to the next book if you don't want to hear them. I did read Shatter Me in a vlog, in my Reading the Oldest Books on my TBR vlog, and I did give that one 2 stars and said that there was probably gonna be a love triangle, and of course there was. All of a sudden Adam was completely toxic and insane and possessive, and this was giving me Tamlin and Rhysand vibes. Adam kept insulting Juliet when he figured out that she had a crush on Warner, and he kept saying like, I wish you were dead, I'm your boyfriend. He wasn't accepting the fact that she broke up with him like 3 times. We never broke up, drop dead, I wish you were dead, like all those horrible things, and I was like, seriously? Warner, on the other hand, now is perfect. On the first book, I did not like him at all. And he kept saying love, love, love in every sentence, talking to Juliet. Also, we figured out that what happened in the first book was an hallucination. Wow. Wow. No. Also, he read her journal. Violation of privacy. I don't like that at all. Overall, the reason why I did not like the series were the characters and the relationships. I am already forgetting the plot and the action scenes. There was a happy ending. I mean, they defeated that organization. The next 3 books are all classics. 2 of them are Italian, and they were books that I owned in Italy that I wanted to read before coming here. Again, that's a common theme, because I didn't want to bring them here because I wasn't sure I was going to like them. And as I said before, classics are a hit or miss with me because of the writing, especially. The 3 that I read were 2 by Luigi Pirandello, which was a Sicilian author, Uno, Nessuno, Centomila, and L'Esclusa. I think you translate Uno, Nessuno, Centomila, 1, no one, and 100,000. And L'Esclusa means the one who is excluded. Let's talk about these 2 first. I don't want to talk about them a lot because, you know, it's not like a popular book, and I don't have, apart from, you know, not being popular, I don't have a lot of opinions. So yeah, I gave the first one 3 stars and the second one 2 stars. Uno, Nessuno, Centomila talks about this married couple who one day the husband is looking at himself in the mirror, and his wife comes to him and tells him that he has a crooked nose. And since then, he has been thinking about that. That he has a crooked nose, because he had never seen that before, and all of a sudden his wife told him that, and all he can do is look at his crooked nose, and all of a sudden he is looking at every single flaw that he has, and he's having like a crisis, and it's about identity. What he does is start doing things that other people aren't expecting of him to do. There's complications in the relationship and all that, and yeah, he really goes through it, and there's all this discussion about identity and what people perceive about us, and you know, you get the idea. Esclusa, on the other hand, is, well, I remember less about that, but it's about this woman. This was set, I think, in the late 19th century or the beginning of the 20th century, I'm not sure, but it's about this woman who is left by her husband because he finds out that she is talking with another man of the town through letters. Like, there's not like cheating involved, I believe. There's like a encounter, like they send letters to each other, and there's this discussion about like women being more intellectual, because back then, especially in Sicily, women didn't do a lot of reading and writing, and they were mainly housewives. So the fact that she started talking to someone else was not accepted, so she becomes esclusa, quindi she is lonely. And, you know, other stuff happens. She wants to become a teacher, I believe, and she goes to the city, and then she comes back. I do know that I did not like the ending. I did not like it overall. I give it 2 stars, but yeah, these are just classics that I wanted to read and see if I enjoyed them, and I enjoyed the first one better than the second one, obviously. The third classic that I read is not Italian, but I did really enjoy this one. The title is L'amico ritrovato in Italian, but I think in English is Reunion, by Fred Ullman. It is set during the Second World War, and I really enjoy this one because first of all, it's very short. The writing is more comprehensible for me, and I read it in Italian, by the way. This book is about 2, I think, teenagers, I think they are in high school, who are living during the Second World War, or at least right before it begins. And one of them, I don't remember the names, but one of them is Jewish or has like origins, Jewish origins, and the other one is German, and his parents really like Hitler and all that. So before the war begins, they become friends. The Jewish boy is very intrigued by this other boy, and he wants to become friends with him, and they do. He invites him over at his house a lot of times, but slowly he begins to notice that the other boy never invites him over at his house, or if he does, his parents are never home. And he discovers that the reason why that doesn't happen is because the parents love Hitler, and you know, the friendship slowly starts to end, and the other people in his class start, you know, bullying him and all that, and stuff happens, and the very end is very emotional. The last sentence of the book makes you think that there was a lot of behind the scenes stuff happening, because we do follow the Jewish boy, we don't follow the other boy after a while. I gave it 5 stars, so first 5 stars of the year. I read 3 of Fredrik Backman's shorter books. I think 2 are novellas, and every morning the way home gets longer and longer, The Deal of a Lifetime, and I read the nonfiction Things My Son Needs to Know About the World. I really like Fredrik Backman. I did read Anxious People in December, but I decided to read his shortest books first, and then I'm gonna read Beartown and A Man Called Ove. I did give all of these 4 stars. I feel like his writing is amazing, and his books are really relatable, even though you haven't gone through the stuff he's talking about. In the novella And Every Morning the Way Home Gets Longer and Longer, he talks about a grandpa who has Alzheimer's, so that is very emotional. I never experienced that, but I can just see a lot of people being emotional reading this. It's about his relationship with his grandson and his son, which are completely different. The other one that I read is The Deal of a Lifetime, which is kind of a Christmassy novella, so I'm a little bit late, but still really enjoyed it. This one is about a man who I want to say is selfish and hasn't really been there for his son. He really just thought about working and work and his job and, you know, and now he has cancer. So it's about him being sick and seeing this other girl at the hospital being sick as well. We do see, you know, feelings start to stir up in him. There's also this like magical realism aspect which gets thrown in there all of a sudden, and I wasn't expecting that, but I did not hate it. So 4 stars. And lastly, the nonfiction, Things My Son Needs to Know About the World. This is just fun. I listened to the audiobook and I was giggling sometimes because he's funny. He does say random things. And if you want to read like a funny nonfiction, check this out. The next book that I read is another 5-star, King and the Dragonflies by Kaysen Callender. I do own Felix Ever After. I need to read it. But I decided to read this one first because it's a middle grade, it was available on Scribd, and everyone seemed to really love this book last year. It was on a lot of people's favorite books of the year, and I know why now. It is about this boy called King whose brother dies and all of a sudden, and it's about him dealing with grief of losing a brother. But it's also about him dealing with his sexuality, his identity, because he is in middle school, so he is trying to figure himself out. He did hang out with another boy who is gay, and before his brother died, his brother told him not to hang out with him anymore because other people might think he's gay too. So he does stop hanging out with this kid. And now his brother is dead and he doesn't want to think ill of him. He sees him in Dragonflies, hence the title King and the Dragonflies. When he sees Dragonflies, he sees his brother. So it's about him struggling with his own sexuality, with what his brother told him before dying, because he does want to be friends with this other kid. And it's also about the struggles of this other kid being gay and his family, you know. So it really is a great middle grade. It explores different themes. The main character is also black. I tend to not like middle grade, but this one was great. So I really recommend. I gave it 5 stars. The next book that I read was another disappointment. It was the first book by Mona Awad, 13 Ways of Looking at a Fat Girl. Yeah, and I do want to read her other books. I want to read Bunny. Everyone seems to be really intrigued by that book and her upcoming new novel in, I think, August. But I do want to read them. So I started off with this one because, as usual, it was available on Scribd, and I did want to read, you know, her first book first. But I was disappointed. I gave it 2 stars and it really didn't stick with me. I'm already forgetting some parts, but it's about this character who is fat, overweight. Her name is Elizabeth. She is being called differently throughout her life. Like at first I think she was being called Lizzie, then Beth, then Elizabeth. And it is divided in 13 chapters. It's about her being in different stages of her life and overall her experience being a fat girl and then a girl who loses weight and still being obsessed with her image. The character Elizabeth and the other characters in general, her mom and her friends, are unlikable. There really are unlikable characters. So if you enjoy that, try this out. It is really full of unlikable characters. She is really angry and self-loathing, and even when she's thin, she really hates herself, and she's never really happy. It's kind of like a character study, self-destruction, you know. It was not for me. It is pretty fast, but it is uncomfortable to read at times because there are a lot of sexual parts. It's about her also being with a lot of men. Her not loving herself and not thinking that she deserves real love, so she just goes with men, stays with men, and it's really sad. It's not funny like I've heard other people say, honestly. My first anticipated read of the year, a new release, it is Concrete Rose by Angie Thomas. I did enjoy this one. Obviously, there's like nothing new. It's not very plot driven. It's not very, you know, thrilling, exciting. You know how the story goes if you've read The Hate You Give. It's about Maverick Carter when he was young and him becoming a father for the first time and then becoming a father again. And yeah, it's about especially his relationship with the girls who have his children, his mom. He really should have been careful after that first time. It's crazy how he had his first child and then still didn't use protection. It happens, but I would have been so careful if that ever happened. I really like the writing as usual. I think Angie Thomas' writing is perfect. The characters feel so real. Maverick seems real, Lisa too. Their relationship is so cute, especially at the end when they discover the gender of Star. When they made that kind of bet, what is it going to be, a boy or a girl. That was cute. That scene was really cute. And it was funny seeing Maverick adjust to fatherhood and being a father. It was funny. I did get emotional in some parts because there is that plot point of Maverick being part of this gang. We get to see his father in prison, him really figuring out what he wants to do next. And we do see that backstory because in The Hate You Give, he is a store owner. So we do see him slowly being more and more interested in entrepreneurship. There's also queer rep. I'm not gonna say who it is, but there is a queer character in this book. I think this is a great book for boys. I don't know how to explain it, but I feel like a lot of times there isn't a lot of depth to male characters in books. We tend to really concentrate on female characters. And seeing Maverick struggle through fatherhood and high school, I think that's good. We do see Khalil as a baby, and that was emotional as well. Overall, 5 stars. No complaints here. Whew. So the next book that I read is Fairest by Marissa Meyer. This is the 3.5 book in the Lunar Chronicles. It is Levana's story, the evil queen story, and we see how she becomes the evil queen. We see her past, like what happened to her, why she doesn't show her face. It's about also what happened to Cinder. We do learn more about Winter, which is then the 4th book will concentrate on her, I believe, because I haven't read it yet. But she really is evil. There is like no redeeming qualities about her. And I did read and hear other people say that this book wants you to sympathize with her, maybe, but I didn't feel that. I mean, yes, something really bad did happen to her that made her become evil, I believe, slowly and slowly. But she really does a lot of bad things during her lifetime. When she was 15, she was obsessed with this 10-year older man who was married and had a kid. And even though some bad things started to happen to him and he was really sad, and he was trying to be friendly to her because Levana was a very lonely child, a lonely teenager because of her appearance and always being shadowed by her sister. Her sister, horrible as well. So he was just being kind, and Levana was totally obsessed with him. He wasn't interested. I mean, she's a child in compared to him. But yeah, we slowly see things happening, and really there's nothing good about this woman. But yeah, I gave it 4 stars. I really enjoyed it, and I can't wait to complete the series and read Winter. Last book that I read in January is Siege and Storm. There is a readathon going on, the Grishaverse read-along, because another book is about to come out and the show is also coming out on Netflix this spring. So there is this read-along going along, and I had read Shadow and Bone so long ago. So I needed to continue on with this, and I read Siege and Storm this month. I'm going to read Vernon Horizon in February, so I can complete this trilogy. But yeah, I'm not a fan. Again. It is a continuation of the first book. I don't really know what to say because it is the second book in the series. I don't like the characters. I don't care about the characters. That's the problem. I do not care. The story, the plot overall is kind of difficult to explain, but it is about this girl called Alina, who is Grisha. Grisha are these people who have powers. It's set in like a Russian-inspired setting, and there's this bad guy called the Darkling who wants to have power, I guess, and wants to destroy stuff. So yeah, so the way this book was structured was kind of weird for me because the first third of the book was really fast-paced. It's about her running away from the Darkling, and then gets kidnapped by a very loved character we then discover, and then she finds this thing, and everything happens all of a sudden, and then it slows down because they arrive. They were on a ship in this first third of the book. Then they arrive at the destination, and everything slows down, you know? And then at the very end, some things happen. So the pacing was kind of weird, in my opinion. And yeah, I have nothing else to say. I give it 2 stars. Hopefully the last book will be better. But yeah. Now let's quickly talk about the movies and the TV show season that I watched. I watched 2 movies on the airplane. As I said, I watched Just Mercy with Michael B. Jordan and Jamie Foxx. I really, really love this one. I would give it like 10 out of 10, 5. I will read you the short synopsis that is on IMDb. World-renowned civil rights defense attorney Brian Stevenson works to free a wrongly condemned death row prisoner. So you get what's going on here. It's about a black man trying to free another black man on death row, wrongly, obviously. I cried so much watching this movie. I had the mask on, so maybe it wasn't that noticeable, but all the tears came inside of the mask, and I was like breathing my own tears, and I needed to go up in the bathroom and wash a little bit because, oh my god, I cried 3 times in different times during the movie. That electric chair scene. Yeah, it is based on a real story, real events. It was very emotional. I really, really loved it. It came out, I think, at the beginning of 2020. I'm glad I watched it, even though I cried, and I don't know if anyone noticed, but I really was sobbing. I also watched The Call of the Wild with Harrison Ford. I think I'm gonna give this one, if I would, give it a rating, like 3, the middle, It wasn't my favorite. With the dog movies, I always get emotional for some reason. Dogs make me emotional. But also this dog was very heavily modified. The CGI was very evident. The plot is a sled dog struggles for survival in the wilds of the Yukon, so in Canada, I believe. And yeah, it's about his struggles. He goes from house to house because he gets kidnapped. He starts helping out with the postman with the sled, and then he meets the character of Harrison Ford. And yeah, overall, okay, I guess. Lastly, I want to talk about the only TV show season that I watched. I watched it with Kelsey from Bookishly Nerdy. It was like the conclusion of our buddy read slash watch because we read the series of unfortunate events together during the entire year of 2020. So we watched this third season all in one day. We marathoned it, and it was great. Honestly, I think I enjoyed the ending of the show better than the book because I am a sucker for happy endings, and it wrapped perfectly everything up. We get to see how things end in every angle. You know, I really like when things are neatly concluded. So yeah, they really did a great job. Not every single adaptation of book adaptation is good. And this was really, really good, honestly. So yeah, those are all the books that I read. I read a lot. Oh my god, how long is this video? I also watched a little less, but those are what the movies and shows that I watched. And yeah, what is your favorite book of the year so far? Because the first month is over with. Let me know down below, and I'll talk to you guys in my next video. Bye!